Welcome to the SimpleAI Masterclass. Today I'm going to introduce you to core features and functionalities that are current as of summer 2026. For more updated content, please go to SimpleDocs.com. I will start with the home screen. We have market intelligence. This is benchmarking against public contract data powered by Law Insider. General review and risk review are great starting points or endpoints where you can review an agreement, get benchmarking comparison against best practice and market data, and then decide accordingly whether or not you want to apply red lines. You also have the ability to more surgically issue spot and apply red lines using the redline feature. Draft is net new language, either entire agreements or entire agreement or just an additional clause. The comparison feature, as you would expect, allows you to run complex, sophisticated document comparisons. You could compare against a policy document, a different template entirely. In an M&A context, maybe it's a term sheet or an LOI versus a purchase agreement. Compare is very powerful. Custom playbooks and standard playbooks. This is where you can either build a negotiation playbook from scratch, build one based off of an existing document, or use an existing expert developed playbook powered by Law Insider as your starting point. The last feature I'll touch on is precedent review. Precedent review is a cousin of market intelligence. Market intelligence is benchmarking against public contract data, whereas precedent review is benchmarking against your own internal precedent. These are the features that I'm going to cover in the next 10 minutes. To start, all the way on top for orientation, you have settings, manage precedent, team management, and templates, as well as the ability to sign out. Settings is where company context lives. These can be tone settings. These can be language preference settings. We have great additional tutorials that go into specifically how to create your own company context. This is also where your AI memory history can be toggled on or off and can be updated as well. Jumping back to the home screen, I will start with market intelligence. This is benchmarking against the Law Insider data set. It allows you to filter by agreement type, country, jurisdiction, or industry. For agreement type, you indicate which agreements or agreement type you want to compare against. In this case, I have a master services agreement up. You want to indicate which party you are to the deal. Are you the buyer, the seller, lessor, lessee, whatever the deal type is. I'll indicate Acme because that's the agreement that I happen to have up on the left. And I am going to turn on first party paper. In this case, this happens to be my agreement that is come back with red lines. So in this case, it's going to be comparing based on MSA with a filter that includes 7,116 documents. For those less familiar with Law Insider, it's a long tail data project that has been compiling the world's contract data for over 15 years. We have the largest public contract database in the world. It spans 50 languages, hundreds of jurisdictions. And so if you find yourself in Australia or Japan or the UK or wherever you may be, rest assured that we have a large corpus of documentation of data that you can compare against using the market intelligence feature. In this case, I've narrowed just down to MSA. There's 7,000 agreements that meet the parameter of this filter. And if I click on compare, what it's now going to do is it's going to compare the red lines of this document to the larger database and give me recommendations either of how standard something is. Maybe there's a clause that's missing. Maybe someone has tried to sneak something in that is wholly unsuitable for an MSA of this type. This is the sort of analysis and market benchmarking I will get when I run the market intelligence feature. I'll let this run for a few more seconds and then I will jump to the next feature. Keep in mind, this does take a few minutes to process as it is comparing, in this case, to 7,000 plus documents. So keep in mind as you're doing this analysis to give yourself some time because the level of benchmarking that is occurring does require some work. Okay, so it's now produced missing standard clauses. It's an indication of either what's here that we might consider adding, as well as what's here that seems uncommon or unstandard for an agreement of this type. So I can go and see medium, low. Nothing is high risk, so that's good to see. I can expand on insurance, and I can see that based on the Law Insider data set, this insurance provision would normally be included. I'm still using my legal discretion to decide how to handle the results of this, but this is a great way of filtering down and comparing against the Law Insider data set. Let me jump now into risk review, because risk review is similar to but distinct from market intelligence. Similarly, you always want to indicate which party you are to the agreement. But in this case, unlike market intelligence, it's filtering based on best practice generally. So it's not as precise or is not as configured as market intelligence, but it's faster. And it's a good way to specifically identify issues. And what's great about risk review is, as you'll see in a moment, is it's not just highlighting risk, it's also proposing a cure. It'll propose a red line to modify the agreement to conform. In this case, I'll just point to one issue that's been flagged: auto renewal with unilateral fee increases. This is something that you would likely be looking out for. It's showing it as it's high risk. They think this is intuitive what it means, but it means that the contract's going to renew automatically, but that the vendor or customer or whoever the provider on the other side has the ability unilaterally to increase. And so you could find yourself renewing, having a 2x price on your contract. And this is where you may want to negotiate and push back. So I'm going to go ahead and click on fix. And what fix is doing here is it's going to propose a red line that makes this provision more balanced. And it will do that in a way that you may or may not disagree with, but it will propose language that you can then decide how to handle. One way that you can address it is I can go to the section of the agreement itself, read it here, and make sure I feel comfortable with the different approaches. I can also go to the edit red line, modify the proposed changes directly. So if I don't like the style of the red line, but I agree directionally, I can go in and modify it further. I can also add a custom comment. And so if I want a comment to come over with this, I can say something like, as a matter of policy, this is required. And in this case, when I click apply, what will happen is these red lines will carry over into the document. And as you would expect, the comment comes with it. Now, as you are applying these changes, if for whatever reason you change your mind or you think stylistically something needs to be modified, you are still absolutely in the driver's seat. So I can go back in just as you would if you were drafting without an AI tool and make further changes. As I apply these issues under the risk review feature, it will reflect as resolved, meaning this issue has been closed out, either because I'm going to dismiss it as an issue or because I'm going to quote unquote fix it by applying a red line change. Okay, so we've looked at market intelligence, we've looked at risk review. General review is also a more comprehensive analysis where you similarly will indicate which party you are to an agreement. And what will happen here is it will initially give you a very comprehensive analysis of the agreement itself, identifying risks. This is sort of a good review aid if you're just trying to get oriented to a document that maybe just landed on your desk and it's maybe 50 pages long, 100 pages long, and you just want an initial risk spot that, unlike risk review, which is very prescriptive, this is more memo format based. And it gives you something to read through and decide how you feel about the issues in the agreement. When this analysis is complete, you can take the next step and actually go into review mode. And this is where it's actually now going to start proposing changes that make the agreement more balanced or more favorable to your side. So these features have similarity to them, but it tends to be use case driven and user preference driven. So we encourage all of our users to test the different aspects of the product that they find most useful given the nature of your contracting work. So in this case, I'm on general review. It's highlighting a number of issues. I see something relating to data processing. The issue is the clause references the DPA, but does not expressly incorporate it into the agreement by reference. So it's going to propose a way to do that. I can apply that redline change. I can add a comment, or I can edit it. Always you can click on the purple section and it'll take you to where in the agreement that lives. Okay, so let's go back now to the home screen. We've looked at market intelligence, general review, risk review. I'll talk briefly about redlining and drafting now. Redline mode is a very surgical, very specific, use case driven, just in time driven feature within the product. If you're coming in, you're moving fast, but you know there's one or two issues, maybe you're reviewing an NDA and you're just like, hey, I need to make sure choice of law is wherever you happen to find yourself. I'm going to put Montana. It's going to review the document. It's going to find where that issue is, and then it will propose a redline change to conform that to the document. So in this case, I still have the ability to find that area in the document, to edit the red lines, maybe stylistically make a change or other, or maybe most directly, I can just click apply and those red lines will mark up the document, as you can see they've done now. So redlining, when redlining is on, it's very intentional, very specific, issue focused, that is driven by you. Okay, let's go back to a new chat. We were looking at redline. Draft is one of the great ways that the Law Insider supports the functionality of SimpleAI. I need a liquidated damages clause with a $40,000 cap. What's happening here is it's using AI, it's reading the document. So in this case, it's the MSA I have open on the left, and it's referencing the Law Insider data set to produce a standard clause that meets my requirements, that conforms or complements the document, but gives me verifiability that this clause, as written, conforms to what is common for liquidated damages clauses. So I just clicked on see source and it's taken me to Law Insider, where I can reference similar liquidated damages clauses. This is one of our big differentiators in the AI drafting market. Okay, and of course, if I like this, I can click insert a cursor or insert automatically, and it will bring this language into the document. Okay, a few more features for you to focus on. We've looked at everything all the way down to here. So now under compare is a very popular feature for very different reasons, depending on whether you are an in-house lawyer, a solo lawyer, or working at a mid-sized to large law firm. You will find the right use case. But let me describe to you how this product is used most often. A very common use case is if you have your own template that embodies your rules, DPA, MSA, cloud service agreement, etc., and you want to understand how the agreement that you're reviewing compares. This isn't version control. Microsoft, you can use Microsoft for version control. This is about comparing two very different documents that should or might have alignment on key terms, renewal, auto-renew, SLA terms, etc. So running a comparison will allow you to have a written summary that synthesizes the differences between. In an M&A environment, this could be an LOI or a term sheet compared to a purchase agreement, where you're trying to see how much business alignment there is, see if anything was missed. Lots of great use cases. A compliance use case might be where I'm comparing a document to internal or external policies. So if you have a 10-page policy document that outlines, gifts and entertainment, and you're reading an agreement that may, in fact, jeopardize that or conflict with that, this is also a great way to use compare. You click on compare, you click on attach, it will expand, you select the document, and then it will give you the written output from here. Encourage you to test that out with a use case that is best for you. Okay, Before I jump to playbooks, which is perhaps our deepest feature, I want to show you precedent review. Precedent review, you should think of precedent review as the opposite of market intelligence. So what was market intelligence? Market intelligence is about comparing to the massive Law Insider database and filtering agreement type, country, jurisdiction, industry, so you're getting a benchmark against what's market. Precedent is your precedent. And so in this case, you have the ability to establish your own precedent. You can upload files directly here, up to 500. Or if you have the either SimpleAI intelligence or you have the SimpleDocs repository, you can integrate directly there. We don't need to be your repository, by the way, to use the precedent library. We have integrations with SharePoint, with iManage, with Box, with all sorts of CMS tools so that you can rely on your existing data for this purpose. But once you've established your precedent, what it allows you to do is similar to market intelligence. I have the ability now to filter by whatever I have in my library. In this case, it looks like there's 83 documents. I can run this analysis, and what's going to happen is it's going to tell me in this scenario how the red lines in this document conform to things we've accepted in the past. So oftentimes when we're reviewing red lines to our own paper, the question isn't necessarily just what's our fallback or how do we deal with this sort of request. It's what have we done in the past, maybe even what have we done in the past with this specific vendor. And the precedent-based benchmarking allows you to run this type of comparison. I'll let this finish rendering and you will see in just a moment the resulting output. It's going to give me a range all the way from never accepted to commonly accepted. It will also tell me if there's insufficient data. Insufficient data means that what's being proposed maybe is for an agreement type for which we don't have anything in our library, but it won't give you a false positive. It's not going to tell you that something is aligned if it doesn't have data to support it. And that part, by the way, is really, really important. So in this case, I can see the reasoning. 36 of 83 precedents contain a matching excluded data prohibition. So it's like, okay, here's something that's happened quite often before. But if I'm still not fully trusting that, I can go in to found in and actually go and see where it's pulling that data from. And in this case, there's 47 documents. It's going to highlight the area in the agreement where this change was proposed. And if I'm still not satisfied, I can go all the way into the document itself, which I'm showing you now, where it's showing me an MSA that is supportive of this deviation that has surfaced in my current negotiation. This is where your precedent library can live. Again, we can integrate with any repository tool that you may have. And then I can continue to use AI to converse and to go deeper into these individual documents. Okay. We've now looked at the majority of the core features, save one very important one, and that is playbooks. Playbooks is a massive set of features and capabilities built inside SimpleAI. We have entire tutorials just dedicated to what I'm going to give you an introduction to now. Playbook has two primary places to get started. Either with the Law Insider standard library. This is a library of expert developed playbooks, MSA, DPA, EULA, IP licensing agreements, etc. You can filter and search for the playbook that you're looking for, and then you can run it against the document where now you will get best practice recommendations against the document. So if again, this is a great scenario where you have a third-party MSA that you've just received, and you're like, gosh, what does Law Insider say about this? Certainly, the market intelligence that I just showed with you is a great way to get an initial analysis. But the playbooks are great in particular because they can be configured to mirror your exact specification, so it can benefit from both market intelligence as well as your specific policies for governing law or dispute resolution method or SLAs, etc. So an example of that, I see that fees and expenses has been flagged here and some red lines have been proposed. I see that there's a standard comment that comes with it. All of these things can be configured and modified both just in time in this moment as well as saved. And so the idea that I could take a playbook like an MSA playbook and use it as a starting point is really powerful. So instead of running it, I can go to edit. Under edit, I can go to actions. I can duplicate this playbook. I can rename it. I can manage permissions and share it with other members of my team. These are your playbooks. So you own your playbooks. It's your IP. You can take it with you if you ever leave SimpleDocs. It's not shared or it's not being used for any other training purposes other than to give you a consistent output in your contract review. Each of these issues now can be expanded. This is scope of services. Ensure that the scope of service is detailed, specific, and measurable. If vague, flag for clarification. You could make this rule much more specific to your organization. You could have a custom comment that comes with that rule. You can add fallbacks. You have the ability to select red flag or red line. Red flag is just issue spotting, whereas red line is going to actually propose a change. You can have guidance notes. This is an internal note that you would have as a coaching tool for someone else on your team on when to escalate something, maybe to a general counsel or to a partner. And then you can also have preferred language. So in the absence of something, like in the absence of an indemnification clause where you would require one, you can have your own clause library here, so it'll pull over your language exactly. Again, playbooks gets very deep very quickly. There are tutorials that you can pull from our YouTube channel or from our website that go much deeper. The last thing I'll show you is that you can build a playbook from scratch, either based on a template that you have up and available, like we have here. I could build one just from this MSA. I could build my own issue by issue, or I can upload. And upload is probably your best option because you can have a Word document that contains your primary positions, your fallbacks, and your custom comments, all of which can be ingested in an entire playbook, can be built out at least as a first draft, which you can then go and refine and modify. That concludes the SimpleAI Masterclass. Again, please visit SimpleDocs.com for more information or visit our YouTube channel for additional tutorial videos. Thanks so much.